The sleek Tesla came to a silent stop outside the sprawling colonial house in New Jersey. Maya Patel's hands gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white against her brown skin. Through the windshield, she could see her father playing catch with a teenage boy in the front yard, her half-brother, now 14, whom she'd never met. 15 years had passed since she'd last stood in that driveway, clutching a duffel bag with everything she could carry. Her father's words still ringing in her ears, "I finally have a proper heir. You're no longer needed here." Maya checked her reflection in the rearview mirror. At 32, she barely resembled the scared 17-year-old girl who'd left this place. Her black hair was now styled in a confident bob, her designer suit replacing the shabby clothes she'd worn back then. The CEO of Health Eye Solutions looked every bit the Forbes 30 Under 30 millionaire she'd become. But inside, her heart was still pounding like it had that night. Straightening her Hermes scarf, a small luxury she'd allowed herself after her company's IPO, Maya reached for the door handle. She hadn't come here for revenge, though God knew she'd dreamed of this moment often enough during those first bitter years on her own. No, she had come to buy the house next door, to make a statement that would echo through every South Asian community in America. A daughter's worth couldn't be measured by her gender. As she stepped out of the car, the autumn breeze carried the sound of laughter, her father's rich baritone mingling with her half-brother's younger voice. The same laugh that had once accompanied her own achievements, before tradition and the desire for a son had poisoned everything. Growing up, Maya had been daddy's little princess, or so she thought. Rajesh Patel doted on his only child, taking pride in her precocious nature and quick mind. Their suburban New Jersey home was filled with the warmth of her mother's cooking and the sound of her father's animated stories about their family's history in Gujarat, where his own father had built a successful textile business from nothing. "You have entrepreneurship in your blood," Beta, he would say, helping her with mathematics homework at their kitchen table. Each perfect score earned her a trip to the electronics store, where Maya would spend hours exploring the latest gadgets while her father watched indulgently. Those Sunday afternoons were sacred, just father and daughter, sharing dreams of the future between bites of chocolate-dipped ice cream cones. Her mother, Priya, moved through their home like a gentle spirit, maintaining perfect harmony while juggling her roles as a high school chemistry teacher and traditional Indian wife. She had a way of anticipating tensions before they surfaced, smoothing ruffled feathers with a well-timed cup of chai or a favorite snack. But sometimes, when she thought no one was watching, Maya caught her mother staring at family photos with an expression that looked almost like fear. Maya discovered her passion for computers at 10, when her father brought home their first desktop computer. While other kids played games, she found herself fascinated by how the machine worked. Within months, she was taking it apart and reassembling it, much to her mother's horror and her father's surprised delight. "She has an engineer's mind," Rajesh would boast to relatives during Diwali gatherings, his arm around Maya's shoulders. "Just like my father. The Patel genius lives on." But it was during these very gatherings that the first cracks began to appear. Maya was 12 when she first noticed the whispers, the sidelong glances from aunties who would quickly paste on smiles when they saw her looking. "Such a shame. Aye. No son yet. Have they tried the new temple in Edison? I heard their prayers are especially powerful for couples wanting a boy." Her father's shoulders would tense at these comments, his smile becoming fixed and brittle. He started spending more time at the temple, returning home with various herbal supplements that her mother quietly disposed of when he wasn't looking. The Sunday trips to the electronics store became less frequent, replaced by visits to astrologers and religious ceremonies. One evening, Maya overheard her parents arguing in hushed voices in their bedroom. She had just won first place in the state mathematics Olympiad, but her father hadn't attended the ceremony. "She needs you there," Rajesh, her mother, was saying, voice tight with suppressed emotion. "Your daughter is achieving everything you ever wanted." Everything except being a son, the words exploded out of him, followed by a heavy silence. "I'm sorry, Priya, but you know what people are saying. My brothers all have sons. Even my younger sister has given her in-laws 2 boys. What will happen to our family name?" "Times are changing," Priya argued. "Maya is more capable than any. Capability isn't the point. Who will perform our last rites? Who will carry on our family's traditions? Maya will marry and join another family, and the Patel name will die with me." That night, Maya lay awake in her bed, clutching her mathematics medal. Her mother came in later, perhaps sensing her distress, as she always did. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Priya stroked her daughter's hair. "Your father loves you," she whispered. "He just sometimes love gets tangled up with duty and tradition. It's not your fault, Beta. Never think it's your fault." But Maya was already beginning to understand that in their world, love wasn't always enough. She threw herself into her studies with renewed determination, especially her computer projects. If she couldn't be a son, she would be something better. She would be extraordinary. Yet even as she excelled, she noticed her father's praise becoming more reserved, his pride tinged with something that looked like regret. The framed photos of her achievements, once prominently displayed in the living room, gradually migrated to less visible spaces. Her father started coming home later, spending more time at community gatherings where eligible second wives just happened to be present. The day Maya found her mother crying over divorce papers, she realized that her childhood with its ice cream sundaes and proud father's smiles had been merely the prelude to a much harder story. The divine intervention Rajesh had prayed for came in the form of Anjali Mehta, a 25-year-old recent immigrant whose family was eager to secure her future in America. Maya first met her future stepmother at a Diwali function, watching from across the room as her father laughed too loudly at the young woman's jokes, his hand lingering too long when passing her a plate of sweets. "She's barely 10 years older than me," Maya whispered to her mother, who was mechanically arranging samosas on a platter, her hands trembling slightly. "Sometimes," Beta Priya replied, her voice distant. "The hardest part of love is knowing when to let go." The divorce proceedings were quick, almost clinical. The Indian community closed ranks around Rajesh. After all, hadn't he been patient for 15 years? Hadn't he given Priya more than enough time to fulfill her wifely duty? Within 3 months, Anjali moved into their home as the new Mrs. Patel, bringing with her the scent of expensive perfume and the weight of expectations. "It's nothing personal," Beta, her father, had said, not meeting Maya's eyes as he helped Anjali arrange her designer clothes in what had been Priya's closet. "It's about duty, about family legacy. You'll understand when you're older." Maya retreated into her world of computers and mathematics, building complex algorithms that made more sense than her fragmenting family life. At 14, she coded her first health monitoring app, inspired by her mother's stress-induced diabetes. The app won her state recognition and a feature in the local newspaper. "Very nice," her father said absently when she showed him the article, his attention focused on the paint swatches Anjali was considering for the nursery they planned to create. "But maybe spend more time on traditional activities. Anjali could teach you proper rotis. Your mothers were always too thick." The pregnancy announcement came 6 months after the wedding. Maya still remembered the exact moment, a Sunday family dinner, her fork halfway to her mouth as Anjali placed the sonogram on the table like a winning card. "It's a boy," she announced triumphantly, and Maya watched her father's face transform with a joy she'd never seen before, not even in her earliest memories. The sonogram was framed and placed on the mantel, replacing Maya's academic awards. Her father began spending evenings in the future nursery, assembling furniture and reading books about raising sons. The walls were painted a royal blue, a proper color for a prince, Anjali would say, shooting meaningful glances at Maya's purple bedroom door. Maya's achievements continued, but they fell into a void of indifference. She won the National Science Fair with an early version of what would later become her company's core technology. The prize included a feature on PBS and a substantial scholarship offer from MIT for their summer program. Her father didn't attend the award ceremony. "He's taking Anjali to her ultrasound appointment," their housekeeper explained, not quite meeting Maya's eyes. "You understand, Beta? The baby. Always the baby. Arjun, they would name him, after the great warrior of the Mahabharata." Maya looked up the story one night, the tale of a prince who proved his worth through valor and victory. She wondered what stories they would have told if she had been born a boy. The night everything shattered, it was raining a detail that seemed melodramatic even then. Maya had stayed late at robotics club, putting final touches on a project that had already been accepted for a national competition. She came home to find her belongings packed in bags by the front door. "Your mother has agreed to send you money for an apartment," her father said, his voice eerily businesslike as he stood in the foyer, one hand protectively hovering near Anjali's swollen belly. "I'll pay for your education, but but you can't live here anymore. Anjali needs to raise her son without complications." Maya stood there, rain dripping from her hair onto the marble floor Anjali had recently installed. "Complications," she repeated, her voice sounding strange to her own ears. "Is that what I am now? A complication?" "Don't be dramatic," Maya, her father, said, but his eyes slid away from hers. "This is what's best for everyone. You're almost 18 anyway. Think of it as early independence." She called her mother, who arrived within minutes despite the storm. But Priya, still bound by years of cultural conditioning and her own fears, could only slip her a credit card and whisper tearfully, "Sometimes the greatest strength is in walking away, beta. Show them what a daughter can do." Maya's last image of her childhood home was Anjali standing in the doorway, one hand resting possessively on her stomach, while her father's silhouette remained rigid and unmoving in the hallway. As her mother's car pulled away, Maya caught a glimpse of her old science fair trophies being carried toward the garage, making room for the new prince's future achievements. She didn't cry. Not then. The tears would come later, in the small apartment her mother's alimony helped secure, as she applied for part-time jobs and calculated how to stretch her savings through senior year. But in that moment, watching the house disappear in the rain-streaked window, Maya felt something harder than sadness crystallize in her chest. Determination. Those words her mother whispered, "Show them what a daughter can do," became Maya's mantra during the lean years that followed. Her new home was a studio apartment in the rougher part of town, where the rent was cheap enough that she could stretch her savings. The space was barely bigger than her old bedroom, with a kitchenette that consisted of a hot plate and a mini fridge, but it was hers. No stepmother's disapproving glances, no father's heavy silences. She finished her senior year while working part-time at Comtech, a local computer repair shop. Her manager, an elderly Vietnamese man named Mr. Nguyen, recognized her talent and let her study between customers. "My daughter is Dr. Now," he told her once, showing her a photo. "In Vietnam, they said girls should stay home. Here, she saves lives. You too, I think. You have that same fire in eyes." Maya's grades never slipped. She wouldn't give anyone the satisfaction. When her Harvard acceptance letter arrived, with a substantial scholarship attached, she allowed herself one moment of fantasy about her father's reaction. But the only celebration was a quiet dinner with her mother at their favorite diner, both of them pretending not to notice the empty chair where her father should have been. College life brought new challenges. While her classmates complained about dining hall food, Maya worked as a teaching assistant and took on freelance coding jobs to afford groceries. During winter break, when others flew home to their families, she picked up extra shifts at the university library. Her father's promised educational support had come with too many strings attached. Monthly dinners with Anjali, playing happy families for the community. Maya had refused. "You're too proud," her mother said during one of their weekly phone calls. "Maybe if you just tried." "I'm not proud," Mama Maya replied, watching snow fall outside her dorm window. "I'm finally learning my worth." The turning point came during her sophomore year internship at Biotech Solutions, a promising startup in the healthcare space. Maya had applied on a whim, certain her lack of connections would doom her application. Instead, her algorithm for predicting diabetic emergencies, refined from that first app she'd created for her mother, caught the attention of Sarah Chen, the founder. Sarah was everything Maya wanted to be: brilliant, confident, and completely unapologetic about her ambitions. She recognized something in the quiet Indian girl who stayed late coding while others networked at happy hours. "You code like someone who's trying to prove something," Sarah observed one night, setting a cup of coffee by Maya's keyboard. That simple observation broke something in Maya. The whole story spilled out: her father's rejection, her mother's passive acceptance, the brother who replaced her. Sarah listened without judgment, then said words that would change Maya's life. "Let's turn that anger into empire." Under Sarah's mentorship, Maya's healthcare monitoring algorithm evolved. What had started as a way to help her mother manage diabetes expanded into an AI system that could predict a range of medical emergencies hours before they occurred. The technology combined machine learning with real-time patient data to spot patterns human doctors might miss. "This isn't just code," Sarah told her after their first successful trial. "This is revolution, and revolution, my dear, requires capital." Maya spent her junior year bouncing between classes and investor meetings, She learned to translate her technical brilliance into language venture capitalists could understand. Each rejection taught her something new about presentation, about timing, about the subtle power dynamics of the startup world. She kept a spreadsheet of every no, analyzing them like bug reports in her code. The breakthrough came through an unexpected source. A junior partner at a major VC firm discovered that her algorithm had predicted his mother's heart attack 2 hours before any symptoms appeared. The investment followed quickly, $5 million in seed funding, with Sarah's firm matching it. Maya incorporated HealthEye solutions the day after graduation. Her mother attended the ceremony alone, crying tears that held both joy and sadness. That evening, Maya received a text from her father. Congratulations. Anjali and Arjun send their best. She archived it without replying. The next 3 years were a blur of endless workdays and sleepless nights. Maya built her team carefully, looking for people who shared her vision of healthcare that prevented crises instead of just responding to them. She hired other women in tech who had their own stories of being underestimated, overlooked, dismissed. Together, they refined the algorithm, ran trials, navigated FDA approval. There were setbacks. A major hospital chain backed out at the last minute, spooked by concerns about AI in healthcare. A former employee tried to steal their code. Through it all, Maya remembered the night she'd stood in the rain with her packed bags. She'd survived that she could survive anything. By 25, she had her first patent. By 27, HealthEye was being piloted in hospitals across the country. The algorithm's success rate was impossible to ignore: 94% accuracy in predicting cardiac events, 89% for respiratory crises, 91% for diabetic emergencies. Lives were being saved. Real, measurable impact. Maya bought her first apartment with the Series B funding, a sleek penthouse overlooking Central Park. The day she moved in, she found a package from Sarah, a framed copy of their first investor pitch deck, with a note attached. Empire status achieved, but I know you're just getting started. She kept her mother's words too, framed on her office wall where every employee could see them. Show them what a daughter can do. It became unofficial company motto, a reminder that success is the best revenge. Press coverage followed the company's rise. Forbes, Fortune, TechCrunch, they all wanted the story of the young CEO revolutionizing healthcare. Maya gave interviews sparingly, focused more on the technology than her personal history. But sometimes, late at night in her office, she would Google her father's name, finding photos of him at community events, always with Arjun front and center. Her half-brother was growing up to look just like him. The articles, she knew, had reached her father's house. Her mother confirmed he kept a folder of them, though he never mentioned them during their increasingly strained family gatherings. Maya took a quiet satisfaction in knowing that every success, every headline, every life saved by her technology was a rebuttal to his choices. She didn't need his approval anymore, but some part of her, that 17-year-old girl in the rain, still wanted him to know exactly what he had thrown away. The breakthrough that transformed HealthEye from promising startup to healthcare revolution came at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. Maya had been running simulations for weeks, trying to reduce the false positive rate that had made some hospitals hesitant to fully adopt the system. She'd fallen asleep at her desk, her coffee long cold, when the results pinged. "Holy shit," she whispered, staring at the numbers. The new neural network architecture she'd designed had pushed their prediction accuracy to 98.7%. She called Sarah immediately, not caring about the hour. "We did it," she said, her voice shaking. "The system just predicted a pulmonary embolism 6 hours before any symptoms appeared." 6 hours, Sarah. That's enough time to save almost everyone. The next day, she presented the results to their board of directors. By the end of the week, investment offers were pouring in. The Series C funding round raised $150 million, valuing HealthEye at over $1 billion. Maya Patel had become a unicorn founder before her 30th birthday. But money wasn't the real victory. The real triumph came in the form of data, over 10,000 lives saved in the first year alone. Each success story felt like a personal vindication, proof that a daughter's worth couldn't be measured in ancient traditions. The tech world took notice. Speaking invitations flooded her inbox. Women in STEM magazines wanted cover stories. But it was the Forbes profile that changed everything: the rejected daughter who revolutionized healthcare. The article detailed her journey from outcast teenager to tech pioneer, not shying away from the cultural dynamics that had shaped her path. EMS. Patel's story isn't just about medical innovation, the article concluded. It's about the potential we waste as a society when we let outdated gender norms limit human potential. The story went viral in South Asian communities across America. Maya's inbox filled with messages from young women sharing similar experiences, looking for guidance, for hope, for permission to chase their own dreams. She hired a team just to respond to them all, making sure each girl knew she wasn't alone. It was one of these messages that finally convinced Maya to start therapy. "You're everyone's role model," the email read, "but who helps you heal?" Dr. Jessica Martinez specialized in cultural trauma and family dynamics. In her warm office, with its view of the Manhattan skyline, Maya finally allowed herself to examine the wounds she'd been covering with work. "Success is not the same as healing," Dr. Martinez told her during one session. "You've proven your worth to the world. Now it's time to believe it yourself." The therapy journey was harder than any coding challenge she'd faced. Maya had to confront not just her father's rejection, but her own internalized beliefs about worthiness and belonging. She learned that her drive for perfection, while powering her success, came from a deep fear of being found insufficient again. "Your father's inability to value you was his limitation, not yours," Dr. Martinez said. "You don't have to keep proving yourself." As Maya did her internal work, she began building something else, a family of choice. Her executive team became more than colleagues. There was Zara, her CFO, who'd left investment banking after facing similar cultural pressures. Michael, her chief medical officer, who'd lost his sister to a preventable hospital error and shared Maya's passion for saving lives. And Rebecca, her chief of staff, who seemed to instinctively know when Maya needed support, much like her mother once had. They worked hard, but they played hard too. Weekly team dinners became a tradition, with everyone contributing dishes from their cultural backgrounds. Maya learned to cook her mother's recipes, finding healing in feeding others the way she'd once been fed. The office celebrated every holiday, Diwali alongside Christmas, Eid beside Hanukkah, creating a tapestry of traditions that valued all its threads equally. "We're creating the culture we wished we had," Maya told her team during one celebration, "where everyone's contribution matters regardless of their background, gender, or family name." As HealthEye grew, Maya made sure it remained true to these values. The company offered generous parental leave for all genders, supported employees' educational goals, and actively recruited from underrepresented communities. They funded STEM programs for girls and provided mentorship to young entrepreneurs from traditional backgrounds. Maya's public speaking began focusing not just on healthcare technology, but on creating inclusive spaces in tech. Her TED Talk, Rewriting the Code: Technology, Tradition, and Transformation, became required viewing in corporate diversity training programs. She was healing, growing, succeeding on her own terms. But sometimes, late at night, she still found herself wondering about the brother she'd never met, the father who'd chosen tradition over love, and whether success alone could bridge the gaps between who she was and who she'd been meant to be. The "For Sale" sign appeared in front of the Morrison house on a Tuesday. Maya spotted it during her weekly video call with her mother, the familiar colonial backdrop of her childhood neighborhood visible through Priya's kitchen window. By Wednesday afternoon, she'd made an all-cash offer well above asking price. By Friday, it was hers. "Are you sure about this?" Beta, her mother, asked when Maya told her. "That house it's right next door to." "That's exactly why I'm sure," Maya replied, her voice steady. "It's time." The news spread through the Indian community like wildfire. Maya could imagine the whispers at the temple, the urgent phone calls between aunties. The rejected daughter was coming home not as a penitent child, but as a self-made millionaire. The poetry of it was almost too perfect. She hired the best interior designers in New York, but supervised every detail herself. The home theater went where the Morrisons' living room had been. The state-of-the-art kitchen was designed to host large gatherings. Every room was a statement: this is what a daughter can build. The first encounter with her half-brother wasn't planned. Maya was inspecting the landscaping work when a basketball rolled into her yard. Arjun, 14 and gangly, came running after it. He stopped short when he saw her. "You're Maya," he said. "Not a question. I have your old robotics trophy. Dad keeps it in his study." Maya felt her breath catch. "Does he?" Arjun nodded. scuffing his sneaker against the grass. He shows it to people sometimes. Says his daughter won it. I thought he was making it up. The way he talked about you, it didn't match what Mum says. And what does your mum say? That you abandoned the family. But that's not true, is it? I looked you up online. I know what really happened. The directness in his eyes, their father's eyes, made her heart ache. It's complicated, she said finally. Not really, Arjun replied with teenage certainty. Dad messed up. Big time. He hesitated, then added, I'm teaching myself to code. Python mostly. I'm not very good yet. Maya found herself smiling. I could help with that, if you want. The lessons began the next day. Arjun was a quick study, his enthusiasm reminding Maya of herself at that age. They worked in her new home office, surrounded by her awards and achievements, writing simple programs that grew more complex as his confidence grew. It was during one of these sessions that Rajesh finally came over. Maya saw him through the window, pacing in her driveway for 10 minutes before ringing the bell. But your brother's not here, she said when she opened the door. I know his hair had gone grey at the temples. I came to see you, Beta. The old endearment hit her like a slap. Don't call me that. You lost that right 15 years ago. They faced each other in her gleaming kitchen, the silence heavy with unspoken words. Through the window, Maya could see her old house, the bedroom window where she'd once dreamed of making her father proud. I was wrong, he said finally, his voice cracking. I was so wrong, Maya. When I saw what you became, not just successful, but strong and compassionate, I realized that a parent's duty isn't to chase some ancient ideal of family. It's to love and support their children, exactly as they are. Did you practice that speech? Every day for 15 years. Maya felt something shift in her chest. It's not enough. I know. He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo gallery. Every article about her, every achievement, every press mention, all saved, all dated. I followed everything. Your mother, she tells me I have no right to be proud of you, that I didn't help build any of this. She's right, but I am proud, Maya, and I'm so sorry. Arjun shows me your old pictures sometimes, he continued when she didn't respond, but from before. Before I let tradition blind me to what really matters, he asks me why I look happier in those photos than I do now. The truth is, I've been paying for my mistake every day since you left. Watching you succeed from afar, knowing I should have been there. Stop, Maya held up her hand. Just stop. I didn't buy this house for your apologies. I bought it to show everyone that a daughter's worth isn't measured by ancient traditions. That success doesn't need your permission or approval. I know. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a worn envelope. But maybe you'd like to see this anyway. Inside were all her childhood photos, her report cards, her early awards, everything she thought he'd thrown away. They were creased, handled often, stained with what looked like tears. Your mother wasn't the only one who kept believing in you, he whispered. I just didn't have the courage to say it until now. The healing didn't happen overnight. Trust, like Rome, couldn't be built in a day. But it started with small steps: Sunday dinners, where Maya cooked her mother's recipes in her new kitchen, Arjun's coding lessons expanding to include their father watching from the doorway, awkward but trying. The real turning point came at the launch of the Patel Center for Girls in STEM. Maya had chosen to locate it in Edison, New Jersey, the heart of the Indian-American community that had once whispered about her family's shame. The auditorium was packed with young girls and their parents, many from traditional backgrounds similar to her own. Rajesh Patel stood at the podium, his hands trembling slightly as he faced the crowd. 15 years ago, he began, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I let tradition blind me to the greatest gift a parent can have: a child's love. I threw away my daughter's devotion because I couldn't see past ancient prejudices about gender and worth. He turned to Maya, seated in the front row. But my daughter, my brilliant, compassionate, unstoppable daughter, she proved that a girl's worth isn't measured by tradition. It's measured by her dreams, her determination, and her heart. The Patel Center isn't just about teaching girls to code, it's about teaching all of us to see beyond our biases and recognize the potential in every child. Maya's mother, now serving as the center's board chair, wiped away tears as she watched her ex-husband finally become the father their daughter had always deserved. Anjali, sitting quietly in the back, nodded slowly, her own journey of understanding reflected in her eyes. Today, the Patel Center provides scholarships and mentoring to hundreds of young girls from traditional families. Maya's mother serves on the board, her quiet strength finally finding its voice. Arjun, now interning at Health Eye Solutions, often speaks to parents about the importance of supporting all their children equally. And Maya, she found that success wasn't about proving her father wrong, it was about proving herself right. Every girl has the potential to change the world, regardless of what tradition dictates or how many people try to stand in her way. You know what's funny, she told Arjun one evening as they debugged code together in her home office. All those years I thought I was fighting against tradition, but really I was creating a new one, a tradition of seeing worth in every child, regardless of gender. Her brother grinned, looking so much like their father, but with a wisdom beyond his years. That's the best kind of code, to write the one that rewrites the old programs that don't work anymore. Maya looked out her window at her childhood home next door, no longer a symbol of rejection but a reminder of how far they'd all come. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in proving others wrong, but in showing them a better way to be right.